Hi, I'm Megan. Thanks for coming to do what is definitely more of a body prayer practice today. This is my yin time slot. We will do some yin, but the other way we release the connective tissue in addition to yin postures is through myofascial release. So we need lots of tools today. If you only have one yoga mat, roll it up. We're going to need a rolled up yoga mat. So you can set that aside and maybe put a blanket or some other surface down for yourself. If you have a block, grab a block. Otherwise, a book, maybe roughly this size, would do just fine. Grab a folded blanket for yourself. You may be using that. And then I do quite a bit of myofascial release, so I keep a whole bag of balls. And it's nothing special that you have to buy at the sporting goods store. I have rubber kids play balls, 2 different sizes of those. I've got a baseball. Love feeling the stitching on that. I also have dryer ball. Those work quite well. So all different sizes and shapes. And it's nice to use different sizes and shapes to feel different things. So we're going to focus on one area of the body today, so we have enough time to do it. Oh, I'm sorry, you also may need a strap. And you can set yourself up near a wall as well, because we're going to be sitting for a moment. So we're going to work all the way from the feet to the pelvis. So really a small area we're focusing on, feet to pelvis and just the back line of the body. And as we're going along, if you're new to myofascial release, I'll do a little explanation, but the first part is you're going to want to find a comfortable seated position. So if you want to sit up against a wall, you can do that. I usually sit on the edge of my blanket. Shake your legs out. The leg that we're not working, which is the right leg, if you want to put something underneath it, we won't be using the rolled yoga mat. You could relax it like that or bend the knee. We're going to start with the left foot. So choose your weapon wisely. No, don't think of them as weapons. Start with something softer. So the rule with myofascial is the larger the ball, the more surface area, so the less intense. The smaller the ball gets, the less surface area, and you can really pinpoint, right? So think of different size markers, right? The bigger, the fatter the marker, it's going to be a bigger area. So that's like balls. So I'm going to start with one, and I'm just going to gently roll the sole of my foot. So I heard a great quote today. I was doing an online seminar that explained the skin as the surface of your brain. And as you're doing this, I want you to think about that, because I see a lot of people that do myofascial that really push it and they're gritting their teeth and they're actually causing more anxiety in their nervous system. So just feel your skin. Let your skin accept the feeling of the ball. Maybe you're using a soda can, you can use whatever you want. And it's nice to change the surface, because each surface is going to give you different information. You have thousands of nerve cells on your feet that right now are just sending information to your brain. Keep the toes soft. You can roll, but also when we find what we call a trigger point, which is one of those sensitive areas, generally it's because muscles are stuck tight, you can just stop and hold. And watch that you're relaxing your toes. Feel into that space. I'm just rolling the foot. So I like to end the foot by doing the toes specifically, and if you have the right size ball, you can wrap your toes around the ball and just squeeze and release a couple times, wrapping them around like you just had a pedicure. Squeeze and release, and then let that go. You can set the ball aside. Take both legs out for a moment in between, and or whatever position. Notice the difference in your feet. So that's really important, is to feel the different energies, the different sensations as we go up. So now we're going to work up through the back of the calf. I will usually start with a bigger ball, bigger surface area, but you can maybe only have one ball, and that's fine too. My dryer ball works great for this. And I'll start more towards the ankle, but you have all of this tissue in your calf to explore. So what I watch for is that I'm not tightening my leg. I'm letting the weight of the leg fall into the ball. So it helps me to do that. It's just like with yin, is focus on your bones. The more you can focus on the weight of your bones and the support underneath your body, your bones are your support system, the more the muscles will relax. You can just hold and be still. So that's the compressive forces of just being still, but you can also roll into it. If you find you want to dig a little bit deeper or pinpoint those areas, this is where I will use a block. You could use your book at home, and I might even go into a baseball, put the block on the ground and the baseball on top. Oh boy, the baseball on top. So a lot deeper. I think, in fact, I'm going to switch it out. I'll go to the small pink ball first. So I know that for me, if I have to say, oh boy, or I feel my whole body suddenly tensing to protect me, it's too much. So you don't want to make these tissues weak. What we're doing is hydrating them, right? They're stuck, they're locked, and we just want to hydrate them, get some fluidity into the tissues. And you can kind of tip into the inner calf area, stay right in the middle of the gastroc, or go to the outer side, the soleus. So there's different muscles. You don't need to know what they are, but you're just rolling around. I'm again going to check that I'm not tightening my ankle. If I find I'm tightening my ankle too much, especially with the block, well, first of all, you don't have to use the block, right? You could be doing it down here with your foot on the floor. But sometimes what I'll do is I will put something underneath my foot. So then I'm still getting that really nice weight of compression, a lot of compression, but feeling into that calf. Think of the skin. If you're feeling your skin move, then you automatically know you're moving the superficial layers of your fascial tissue because it's attached right to your skin. But we go deeper than that. We go into the myofascial is the fascial tissue that holds that muscle. It's like the matrix of webbing that holds your body in place. Hearing my rooster perhaps. And you're just rolling it out. And you can change positions. So trigger points, something important to know with trigger points is that you don't have to be right on the trigger point. So I find a sensitive area in my body, and if I can't let go into that sensitive area, first in stillness, then I might move the ball slightly to the side of the trigger point, because you don't have to be on it to release it. You can be next to it. Remember, this is all interconnected. And we can say we're working a muscle. We're not. We're working the whole back line of our leg, really the whole back line of our body. I'm going a little bit more into that calf. Taking a few more moments. All right, and then we're gonna switch. We're gonna go into the knee. So this one works through forces of compression in the back, and you're actually gonna get a nice stretch through the front of the kneecap. So what you wanna find is a ball that fits in between the tendons in the back of your knee. So I know for me, my pink ball is about right. I have smaller little blue balls. Like I said, I've got a whole selection here. But you're gonna put that ball back there, and then try to get it right between the tendons. Place your foot on the floor and start with your heel a little bit further away. You can wrap your hands around the shin. So if you're not feeling anything yet, particularly in the upper calf and the lower part of the hamstring, so where all the connective tissue comes into the back of the knee, then just take your hands and gently bring your heel a little bit closer to your buttocks. This one I don't move as much in, but I will reposition the ball. Okay, so there I just found my spot in my calf. And what I do is I go into my diaphragmatic breathing, nice deep slow breath. So it's sending the nervous system the message there's no reason to tighten those muscles. Like, please let those tissues release. It's okay. Or the definition of pain as pain is protection. So telling your brain, you don't need to protect me. And feel all that spaciousness in the front of the kneecap. So nice decompression for the knee. You may find that you can, once it starts to release, so there's that feeling of a dulling of sensation. You can either change the space of the ball a little bit. You could change out what ball you're using, or just draw the heel in a little bit closer. Half an inch makes a difference. And I find too that though I'm mostly still in the knee, I like to just rock my leg more in a way, not to create more sensation, but a soothing way. Just rocking it side by side, side to side. All right, so we're going to come out of the knee, slowly release the leg again, and now we're going to go into the back of the hamstrings. So it may have been your calves were your party point. It could be the back of your hamstrings. Generally, unless you're starting with a bigger ball, which is what I usually do, so more surface area, less intensity, you can just leave the whole leg line on the ground, and you can just let it fall. You can go deeper in. These balls are all pretty soft right now. So I'm fortunate in that usually my hamstrings are not a sensitive space, so I go for broke. I'll grab that block again. I might take the pink ball first or the baseball if and when I'm ready, and put the ball on the block and let the weight of your leg fall down into it. And again, watch that you're not tightening the muscles in your lower leg, right? Can your lower leg just hang and relax? And getting into the backs of the hamstrings. You can pinpoint that one space, but you don't have to. Everything is interconnected. So if you're touching anywhere in the back of your thigh, the whole thigh is feeling it. The whole thigh is going to respond. And just moving it back and forth. So I find I can go a little deeper. I'm going to switch into my baseball. Go side to side. You might start lower down by the knees, see how that does for you. So it's an exploration, right? Move into the belly, the hamstrings right in the center. And you can go side to side across the muscle tissue. You can also, it's a little bit more difficult depending on if you're sitting on a wall, but you can go back and forth a little bit, shift your hip back and forth, so up and down from knee to hip. You can also go higher up. Just rolling out the hamstrings. Just getting familiar with the space in your body. All right, we'll be coming off of that one. And I highly advise a soft, smaller ball for this next one. I might even go to my blue ball or the soft pink ball. We're going to do the left sits bone. If you don't know where your sits bone is, it's right to the inside of your leg. So where your leg comes in to the lower part of the pelvis, you'll find it. And you're going to put that ball, actually like the pink one, put the ball right underneath you. Do not use a baseball, or I doubt you want to use a baseball. We try to avoid the actual sits bone and go to either side of the bone. So the bone's actually more like finger shaped from front to back. And we don't want to be on the bone, you want to be on either side. And this is where a lot of the connective tissue comes in. It's very grounding to roll out your sit bone. You'll notice I bent my left knee. It just feels better to start that way. So think of a fulcrum and you're just gently rolling, or you might just stop and let the weight fall in. So the first part is finding the sits bone. Ischial tuberosity. You tell how windy it's gotten out here? Cooling me off. Feels kind of yinnish out here today. It feels like fall, not spring. Maybe you're in fall. I don't know. Where are you? Rolling out your sit bone. And this is like the super highway of connective tissue for the back of the leg, back of the hamstrings. Just rolling that out. And then coming off the ball, take a moment, take both legs out, just shake them for a moment, and just notice if you feel a difference in your two legs. Like, is there a weight difference? The way that was one feel longer than the other? You're just noticing, or just more awareness of the back of the left leg versus the right leg, or is it just the back? Is it the whole leg? And then we're going to do the right leg. So if you need to readjust your posture, sitting up against a wall or using your blanket, do that. My left leg's on holiday. I'm going to start with the sole of the right foot, bending my knee, placing the ball underneath. If you have socks on, I take them off too, because again, it's about letting your skin is your first layer. Let your skin feel the texture of the ball. And you can change textures. Just rolling out the foot. And the feet and ankles are really important in proprioception. They feed our our brain with lots of information of where we are in space, right? That's why we stand and walk. You can hold a spot. So I found a sensitive area, and generally if I find a sensitive area, instead of rolling around on it, I just stop and I let the weight of my leg bone fall into it. You can explore different balls if for no other reason than just feeling like this is really soft and cushy, and it molds right to the arch of my foot, but it feels good. If you can feel it, you're doing it, and it shouldn't hurt, in fact, and it can feel good, and you're doing something good for yourself. So you don't have to go in there with those big foam rollers and cause lots of pain and trauma to your tissues. You're just hydrating them. And we'll finish with the foot. I'm going to go into the back of the right calf. So if you feel comfortable just putting the ball underneath the calf, and I usually start down more towards the ankle, the Achilles, you can do that, and you might just rest on it, so just the compressive forces of letting the bones of the leg fall, or you can move on it, so you can compress and then move. What I showed you last time is if you want to get it a little bit, I find it's a little more intense if I put the ball on the block or a book or something, and then because then the weight of my leg is hanging more, so there's more weight, more compressive forces. I feel that one. You go to the inner calf, to the outer calf area, the soleus. So you gotta just play around with it, keeping the toes relaxed. So I think of the toes as, watch your toes. If they fly up like a flag, then you're trying to protect yourself. So keep the foot and ankle relaxed. So yin's about the cooling channel, so I can tell you this is a cooling channel kind of day. Our wind just switched, and now it's coming out of the north. And I think the temperature since I got out here just dropped about 15 degrees. There's my cooling channel. Just rolling around, exploring your calf. And you might notice too, maybe one leg is more sensitive than the other. And you can ask yourself, is that a leg that you tend to have more pain in, or are you always leading with that leg? And then I look at things like, is that the leg I always cross on top, or do I always put my weight into that leg when I stand? You know, we stand with all our weight in one foot and the other leg sticking out. So then I start to look at, how do I stand? How do I sit? And what habits might be contributing to one side of my body being tighter? So it's all things we look at. So we're going to get ready to go into the knee. Remove the block. Pick the ball that fits right between the tendons in the back of the knee. Get it right in there. Place your foot on the floor, and you can keep the heel further away at first. And then if it feels okay, as your body invites you, begin to bring the heel a little bit closer, and you'll feel the top of the calf and the bottom of the hamstring area, and feel all that space decompressing the front of the knee. Just breathing into it. The simplest thing I remind myself is that I am the only one that can feel this in my body. And I can describe it to you, but you still don't know. You know, everybody's going to have a different experience of their tissues of their body. If it feels okay, you can either rearrange the ball to a different space or draw that foot closer in. I like to rock a little bit. I've gotten definitely deeper into the upper calf muscle. And I can focus in the compression in the calf, but I also like to feel that spaciousness of the kneecap. Two different sensations. And it's really easy to, you know, label one as pleasure and one as pain. But I try to put it as in the very least, joyful discomfort, but that it's all sensation. It's all different numbers on the sensation scale as opposed to the pain scale. I'm just finding that back of the knee. Last few breaths. And we'll release that. I'm going to get into the back of the hamstrings. So if you have a bigger ball, You don't need to put anything underneath, and sometimes that's a good spot to start, just to feel the tissues, right? Feel the skin moving, feel the tissue underneath the skin moving, and then if you want to get deeper into those, the deeper layers, you might take a block or a smaller ball and let your back of your thigh, so feel nice, big, strong femur bone. Let that femur bone just fall into the ball. And so much area to explore, right? And I'm not getting into the super famous celebrity IT band today or any of that stuff. We're really sticking with the back line of the legs, in the hamstrings themselves. So I could go a little bit more sensation here. So I'm pulling in the baseball. I've seen people use all kinds of balls. Bracket balls, lacrosse balls. They all work. Rolling pins. And remember, you can go across the muscle, like across the muscle fibers, or you can go with the muscle fibers. That's a little bit harder to move it that way, but that's there too. Or just the being still, right? Being still, the weight of the leg. And sometimes I'll get those compressive forces right into or right near one of those trigger points for myself. And then the other thing we can do is we can contract into the compressive forces, but it is purposeful. So I'm not noticing I'm tightening. I might lift my leg up. And now I'm contracting into those compressive forces, and it's a little more in your face, right? Just by lifting the foot off the floor, breathing into that space. So I'm gonna hold this one. I can feel it. It's like if you start with this hard chunk of butter, you know, when you first take it out of your fridge. I love to bake. And then you leave it on the counter and it gets softer and softer. And if it's summer, eventually that butter's just gonna become liquid, right? Become liquid like your tissues. And that's what we're doing. We're not sticking it in the microwave and melting it down like that. You gotta take your time, be sensitive. And then we're gonna come off of the back of the right leg line and go into the right sits bone. So I will not go with the baseball because that does not feel good. I'm gonna go with my pinky bouncy. So this is really soft. It's solid and firm, but it's actually soft too. So going underneath that right sits bone, you'll find I usually bend my leg at least to start. I find I get a little bit more mobility. And rather than being right on the bone, you can be to either side of the bone, explore those connective tissues coming in there. And this is very grounding for the body, taking our awareness into the base of the spine. You can move or be still. Having this relationship with the back side of the body. I just feel like the back side of our body gets such a bad rap, right? We always say we have a bad back or whatever else, and we can't see our backside, you know? We kind of ignore it for the most part, unless it hurts us. So give it a little bit of love and kindness, thoughtfulness. I just found a really sensitive area, so I just stop. Instead of moving, I stop and be still and see what shows up. I'm not expecting anything. Maybe it gets more intense. Maybe it dulls out. I just sit and wait and see. And poof, it disappeared. Doesn't always happen that way though. So finish up with your sit bone. All right, and then we'll take that out. So we are going to go a little bit, even though I said the leg line, we are going to go a little bit into the glutes before we do our first. We're only doing 2 yin poses. First yin pose. So this time I'm going to have you come onto your back. You get to lay down on your back. Choose your ball wisely. You might even start with a bigger one. And we're going to go into the left glute butt cheek first. So I like to start with feet on the floor. Let my back and spine relax. You can do that big ball and roll around. And if I do a big ball, I want to make sure I don't want to have to hold my right hip up. So I'll either just let it drop, or this is where the blanket can come in handy too, because you can put the blanket underneath the right hip to give it a little bit of support. If you find that a bigger ball just isn't enough, or the drier ball, then go for something that's more firm, that's firmer, that's more in your face. So I start with both feet on the floor. You got a big area to roll out here, right? I do. And again, we try not to go on the bone. So think of your sacral bone, that downward facing triangle. Anything all the way to the outer hip from the sacral bone. So right in the inside of that sacral bone, all the way up to the top of the hip. If you want a little bit more, then with the right foot on the floor, you can cross the left ankle on the right thigh, and you're going to find that brings more weight. And don't forget the power of just being still, and can you really let the weight of your body release into that ball? You're not holding yourself up. So just landing, letting your body land on the earth. Land and observe. And you may know where your trigger points are. I most certainly do, and they change occasionally, but I have certain ones that are just part of my anatomy. And I say hello, ask them how they're doing today. And just exploring that area. If you do want to get a little more on the outer hip, you can tip over a little bit, and that might be with both feet on the floor. You can do that. Some people I know go all the way over. I'm not going to get into that today. There's nothing wrong with it, but we're staying right in that back line as opposed to the side. So your call. Take a few more breaths. Keep going back to that too. How are you breathing? Is it comfortable for you? So we don't want to make the nervous system more hyperactive than it already is to these areas in our body. We're trying to calm it, right? We want the party to quiet down, not add more people and bring another keg of beer in, right? That's what we're doing if we use these big spiky balls in myofascial release. It's adding more people to the party, and it's not going to help you to relax and release. Just want to hydrate. Just moving the tissues. Finish up with that left side, and then you can come off the ball. Maybe take a moment to note the difference in the two sides, and then working your way into your right buttocks. And you can start with whatever size ball you'd like. What I did last time is I used a bigger ball, so that meant I needed to put the left hip up on something, give it a little pedestal. Can't find my balls. So starting with a bigger surface. So the way I describe the size of the balls, I don't think I said this, is that I think of it, I remember it being told one time, a bigger ball is like brushing your teeth with a toothbrush, and the smaller ball is like dental floss, right? You're going to get right into those little areas. But I also think of the tip of a writing instrument. What do you need? So I'm switching out to a smaller ball. If you want to cross your right ankle on your left thigh, it tends to be a little more in your face. And you can do that and still keep the left hip on the floor, or you can lift the left hip, and then that's going to be a lot more weight going into the right butt cheek, so more compressive forces of the weight of the body into the ball. That's what it is. It's compressive forces. Think of, all the water in your body. I visualize the water really helps me. If I visualize my body as water, every time I'm rolling, I'm creating waves, right? You're creating waves in all of that watery tissue. And it is watery. The skin and The superficial fascial tissue is really watery, and you're just creating gentle waves. And just explore different spots. I have a lot of sensitivity right at the upper hip, just below the hip bone. You can also tip to the side and get more on the outer, a little bit more on the outer hip. All right, so finish that up. And we'll take the balls out. And we're just simply going to go into a happy baby pose. So draw your thighs towards you. If you need to rock a little bit on the low back, do that. Take your thighs to the sides. Start with your lower legs relaxed and let your tailbone lift a little bit. And see how far out you want your thighs so that your hips aren't bone on bone where it's comfortable. Some people like them closer together, further apart. And you could even just stay here. But as we begin to lift the legs, you're going to feel more stretch through the back of the leg line. We'll start from here. Hands can stay on the backs of the thighs. You can go to your ankles. If they're available, we come to the feet. And we're going to take about a minute or so in this posture. Just letting that open up. You can be still or you can gently rock. And think of all these tissues that we just rolled out. Everything from the feet to the buttocks. So this first version, we're going to stay in the happy baby with the legs bent so that we don't get as deep into the back line. We'll be coming back to this, but we'll be extending the legs. But for now, just feel this. As you're coming out, if you want to just gently extend the legs upward, you can, stretching them out, maybe take them wide, and then take them back down, let them come all the way down. You can roll to one side or the other. Coming back up, we're going back into myofascial release. So this is where you're going to want that rolled yoga mat. And this is another way to do this without the balls. You know, you could do this just on its own. It's quicker, but I find that I like to address the two legs separately because I have different responses from my two leg lines. But this is all-in-one, one-stop shopping. So you're going to come onto your shins. If you want a blanket underneath your legs, please feel free to do that. More padding under your knees. And you're going to take that rolled mat, you want it rolled pretty tight. Mine actually could be a little tighter, but I'm going with it. And you're going to bring it as far as you can into the backs of the knee joints. So think where we had those balls earlier, same thing, but the mat's going to go in there. And then you're going to slowly sit back. So for a lot of people, this is too much weight. So you can take your hands to the floor. Let your hands and arms hold some of your weight. Notice you're also opening the tops of the feet. I want to get you into it, but just show you that if it's too much for the tops of the feet, then that blanket is really nice because not only does the blanket pad the knees, but if you place it right, it gives you a little space between the tops of the ankles and the floor, so you won't be compressing. You won't be pushing the feet as far into the floor. So you could be doing something like this, and then the ankles are more or less removed from the equation. I like the tops of the feet on the floor. So once you're in that spot, make sure you're not gritting your teeth. That does not work. But then you can go side to side a little bit. So just rock it back and forth. You can also go back and forth. So if you're not fully weight bearing, you can lift up and then go back down and work on that the compression as you let your hips fall back. But I find that just that nice little wave-like rocking feels really good too. So you should feel the backs of your calves and your hamstrings. Fronts of the knees decompressing again. We'll be here for about 10 more breaths. And this is a, you know, like I said, a quicker way to get into that back line, both legs at the same time. Just a rolled mat. And I have tried this with a foam roller. Maybe you're doing that, that's fine. For me, it's too in my face. If I don't use the foam roller, I can actually work my way back too and let all of the weight of my body fall in. So, you know, you can deepen the sensations through weight. You can also deepen it by using different tools, right? And then we'll begin to come out, but we're not coming out completely. You're just going to come forward. And then if you need to roll your toes under in between, do that for a moment. Now you're going to take the rolled mat where it was all the way up against the backs of the knee joints, take it right into the middle of the calves, right in the belly of the hamstrings. And then sit back again. You may find once again that you need to have your hands on the floor. You can be still or come forward and back, side to side. So now you should feel the centers of the calves and the centers of the backs of the thighs. Notice how you're opening the fronts of the thighs. And because we're doing this more symmetrically, both legs, you might sense here too that one is more sensitive than the other. Keep hands on the floor or come all the way up if it works for you. Sensing the tops of the ankles opening. Feels like it's going to snow here today. Good thing yin is a cooling practice, I suppose. All right, take your last 2 breaths there, and we have one last position. So we take it, come back up again, and then take it all the way down to the bottom of the calves. And then, so the bottoms of the calves, tops of the thighs. And this one, if you've been here, you might be able to come further back. Part of it might depend on your ankles. Oh boy. And you know, some mats are a lot smushier. This mat really doesn't smush. It's pretty firm, not a lot of give. So I've got a lot of sensitivity right in the lower portion of my calves, and I'm feeling that. But I'm smiling to it. Just a gentle rock from side to side, or the back and forth, right? Coming in and out. All right. So we're going to come off that mat, and once we do that, we're going to stretch out the whole back of the leg line. So for a lot of yin classes, what we'll see is a forward fold. I love forward folds to stretch the back line, except what usually happens is most people have so much tightness in their back and spine that they're not actually getting into their legs. So I find that if we really want to focus on the legs, the best way to do it is reclining stretch. So this is where you may want your strap, or you can go to a wall and put your legs up the wall, depending on how much flexibility you have in your hamstrings. So I'm going to come down onto my back. So my back and spine is in neutral, and I can really just focus on the legs. Coming all the way down. Let the back relax. Start to come into your happy baby again. Notice how that feels. But this time, so last time we lifted our low back. Before you come up, press the tailbone forward and down, and even create a little arch in the low back. So lift the low back slightly away from the floor. So you're really in that long neutral spine. And see if you can keep that. Then take the strap. Now I know we just had the tops of the feet like this, so maybe you want to roll your ankles around first. But you can either put the strap on your heels or the balls of the feet. I try not to put it right in the center of the soft tissue. I love my heels, it's more grounding for the hips, but you may want to stretch your feet the opposite direction. Can't get it on at all, there we go. So if that's the case, you can go onto the balls of the feet, but try it. It's a different sensation for the back of the leg line. And then keeping that tailbone on the floor, stretch your legs out long. Press, press, press. Not locking the knees, but get your knees so that they're straight with a softness to them. Press into that strap, and now start to slowly bring your legs up. And they may only come this far. You might need to put a slight bend in them. That's okay. But keep the back and spine out of the equation and work into the backs of the legs. So you can hold one strap. Your arms are going to have to be strong. One strap with each hand. And just see where it goes. You can find different lines through the legs, and this is something for you to play with just by, first of all, by taking the legs wider apart, right? You get more into the inner thighs. You could go into a wide stance. You could take your toes, turn them outward, so an external rotation of the thighs will feel different stretching sensations through the backs of the legs versus internal rotation, turning the thigh bones in and just feeling those different places in the backs of the thighs and inner thighs. So the key too is you can start to float the tailbone up a little bit, but get those legs long first when the spine's in neutral. And then you may find you can use your arms to bring the legs a little bit further. If the back starts coming off the floor, just recognize that's okay, but you're no longer deepening the stretch of your legs as much, you're stretching your low back, which is okay. But I am focusing more on my legs, and I'm still feeling it through my buttocks, so I'm going to keep my tailbone on the floor. Relax the toes. So we'll be here for about 2 more minutes. And just breathe into your back line, sensing the space from the balls of the feet all the way through the buttocks, all those areas we rolled. Feel your skin stretching. Imagine you can breathe into the cells of your body. And I've got a little shaking going on. That's not unusual. Just getting into some of those deeper layers. But remember to keep relaxing the muscles in the legs. Your arms can be strong to hold you, but soften the shoulders. Keep the jaws and the head relaxed. Feel free to explore different lines by sliding the legs wide or turning toes in or out. So the wider I take my legs, the more I'm going to feel the stretch in the inner thighs. As I turn my toes out particularly. There's 2 points that I'm always checking. One is my face. Is the skin on my face soft and relaxed? The other is the opposite end, my toes. Am I tightening my toes? You'll notice if you tighten your toes or the soles of your feet at all, that's going to tighten all those muscles in the leg line. So keep the toes relaxed. That's another reason why I prefer to go onto my heels. I like to feel the grounding of the weight of the leg bones coming into the hips. And when I can feel my heels, that's my connection to my leg bones. Just an opportunity to get to know the back of the legs. And as I'm drawing my legs towards me, I'm lengthening my tailbone away from me. So it really, truly is more of a leg stretch. Take about 10 more breaths. And then you can begin to slide your legs towards the midline if they're not. Drop your thighs towards your body. Take them all the way down. If there's any final movement or pose you want to do, just taking the legs long. Sometimes after all that, a down dog feels really good. So if you're a yoga practitioner and you like down dog, a down dog is like this more active stretch for the legs, right? We did the feet, so you could come into that, see how that down dog feels for you. Like, do you feel more spacious through that back line of the legs? Otherwise, you're already on the ground, getting ready for relaxation, taking any movements you need. We really focused on a very small area of our body, so maybe your arms want some attention, your chest, any other areas of your body. And give you the time to settle in, and I'm going to allow for your own kind of relaxation today, whatever that is for you. But think about staying present in that space from the soles of your feet through the backs of the ankles, the calves, the backs of the knees, the thighs, and into the buttocks, back line of the legs. And if you enjoyed this, know that next week I'll be doing the front line, which is a whole different experience. Thanks for coming today. Peace, light, and love.